There's two kinds of people. There's normal people who they don't have anything to worry about. They have an attention span of around 8 seconds. But then there's weirdos. There's something wrong with these people. And these are the kind of people that like to gobble down slop for fun. Garbage cinema speaks to me at a deep level, a spiritual level. It moves me in ways no other kind of movie can. I've experienced a lot of slop in my day, and I've gobbled it down equally.
I want him dead. I want his head cut off and brought here. I want his head on this piano.
But there's one king of slop who churns out slop like no other. And his name is Neil Breen.
I've got so much to do I'll never get done. I'm going to continue hacking into these government systems to see what I can find out.
I was watching some Neil Breen movies, and there were things about them that seemed really familiar. I was like, where have I seen this before? Crucifixion, hands cut off, Messiah complex. I started to realize it's all like Islam. There's a bunch of connections between Neil Breen movies and Islam. Neither Muhammed nor Neil Breen have a healthy relationship with being rejected. You can see this in Twisted Pair when he's rejected in this scene.
Oh, Jesus.
Shoot.
Excuse me, I'm so sorry.
No,
I
it's okay,
apologize.
It's okay, I got it.
No. Here, let me get that for you.
Hey, shoot.
Wait,
God
it's my
darn
fault.
it.
It's
No,
my
no.
fault, really.
Give me my
I
paper.
apologize.
Just leave me alone.
Let me make
Leave
it
me
up
alone.
to you.
No.
I'll take
You're
you
a
out to
creep.
dinner.
Leave me alone. I have a boyfriend.
Let's have
Get
a
out of my
let's
face.
have a
Leave me
drink.
alone.
Let's have a drink.
Leave me alone.
Let's have
I
a
have
drink.
a boyfriend.
I'll meet
Get
you
out of my
back here at
face.
8 o'clock
Get out of
and
my
we'll go out and have a drink.
Go.
I'll meet you here at 8 o'clock. We'll go out for a drink. I'll make it up to you.
Much the same way, Muhammad is constantly insulted when people reject him and has them killed because he can't deal with it. For example, he has 2 singing girls killed in Surat Rasulullah. He also has Abu Afaq, a poet, killed just for making fun of him. Along with another woman who makes a poem making fun of him, he has her killed too. He can't deal with it. If you say something about him, he just has you killed. Neither Neil Breen nor Muhammad really care about consent, as you can see in this scene with Neil Breen's amazing acting.
I'm going to hurt you now. You're mine now. I'll teach you to ignore me. You were supposed to meet me at 8. Bitch. You can't fight me.
You can see this also in Islam in passages talking about being allowed to have sex with those who your right hand possesses, which is stated in the Quran. These are women who are captured in war. Another similarity is the moon splitting.
You are so incredibly brilliant.
Why is the moon split in this scene? I don't know. But you can also see that the moon is split in Surah 54:1. Neil Breen has a really cool method of getting rid of people. He gets rid of them by killing them.
I'm going to eliminate hundreds of millions of the human species. I am going to kill them immediately.
It's as if all the harmful people on Earth are disappearing.
He's gone. The primitive humans must continue the cleanse.
Muhammad does the same thing. As mentioned before, he kills poets who bother him. He kills a bunch of Jews in Khaybar just because they don't wake up and pray in the morning. He kills little servant girls because they make songs about him. So anytime someone's the slightest bit of an inconvenience for Muhammad, he'll kill them. Neil Breen does self-inserts in his movies. You can tell he wishes he was the character that he's portraying in all of his movies, and it's always the same character. He's some kind of guy with like a savior complex where he's cyborg Jesus or he's an advanced AI or whatever it is. He's always some kind of superhuman thing with superhuman abilities, and he goes around and tries to save everybody in the environment and just basically throw everything bad you can think of in a bag, and Neil Breen's superhuman character solves those problems.
I know senior national elected government officials who I can force my political bias and influence on fellow politicians to vote my way. For a payoff, of course.
Isn't that corrupt?
This is how it is with Muhammad and all the characters in the Quran. If you look at the biblical characters like Lot and Noah and whoever, they're just ripped of all of their context, Abraham, and they all act exactly like Muhammad in the Quran. They're all a preacher who's preaching Allah's oneness. They're rejected by the people around them. And if you actually read the Bible, Lot's nothing like Noah. Noah is nothing like Abraham, and Abraham is nothing like Moses. They each have their own lives, their own goals, their own things they're trying to accomplish. But in the Quran, they're just all the same character, just totally flat, Neil Breen characters that are all photocopies of Muhammad, where it's like he took himself and just imprinted himself into the plot of the Quran over and over. The good, like the best parts of Neil Breen's movies are these really, really nice looking shots, but you can tell that they're all stock photography that's taken from somewhere else.
Follow me. They can't hurt me. You won't get hurt. Follow me.
In the same way with the Quran, all the best parts are things that are just stolen from Syriac Christian writings. And you can see this in Gabriel Sid Reynolds' book, The Quran and the Bible. It's just full of apocryphal gospels that it's stolen from, different Jewish writings, mostly Syriac Christian writings from the 5th and 6th century. In Neil Breen's movies, you get the occasional nugget of wisdom.
If it can be destroyed by the truth, it deserves to be destroyed by the truth.
So like in Twisted Pair, he says,
With all my abilities to defeat evil, I still think of my brother Cale all the time, wondering what's happened to him. I miss him. I miss what I never knew.
talking about his brother. And if you ignore all the context of the rest of the movie, that's a cool line. Like, oh, I miss what I never had. Like, it feels deep. But if you actually see it within the context of his movie, you realize that it doesn't even make sense because he did know his brother and had his brother in this movie. This movie, the plot is about twin brothers who are selected by an alien and given superhuman abilities. And honestly, that makes it sound way better than it is. This movie is dog crap. Just like his other movies. Anyway, in the same way, the Quran has the occasional nugget of wisdom, but if you look at it within the context of everything else, where it's saying that it's getting Abraham's dad's name wrong, it's confusing Mary and Miriam, it's confusing Saul and Gideon. Whoever wrote this book had no idea what the Bible even says. They don't know what time period different things happened, and they blur it all together and make all the characters act like Muhammad. There's repetitive preachiness in Neil Breen's movies.
The humans have taken far too long to understand solar energy, but they're beginning to make progress now.
Why are the humans failing? Greedy politicians, lying lawyers, and insurance companies are destroying what I had planned for this planet.
And this is a lot like the Quran. So in the Quran ad nauseum, it just says over and over, Allah doesn't have partners, turn to him or you're going to burn in hell. Like, I just summed up the Quran in one sentence. It doesn't need to be all those surahs. It could have just been that sentence. That's what the Quran says over and over. That's basically all it says. In the same way, a lot of Neil Breen's movies, it is just like dumb, repetitive, preachy, goofball nonsense.
I'm disappointed in your species, the human species.
A lot of Neil Breen's movies feel like a disjointed, incoherent mess. For example, in Fateful Findings, he wakes up in front of a car like 15 times, and you never know if it's a flashback, or if it's forward, or if it's back in time, or if it's something he's doing over and over.
I find myself having dreams and nightmares when I sleep. I'm so alone.
The storytelling in Fateful Findings is so bad, you can't even tell if some of the characters are dead or alive, or if they really exist or not.
How did it get to this point? Where do I go from here?
You don't even know if Neil Breen is trying to shut down the Vegas Strip or save the Vegas Strip. Like, you don't know if he's the good guy or the bad guy, and not in a cool, like, oh, I wonder what's going on subjectively in his mind in its complex sort of way. It's like whoever told this story did it so stupidly, I have no idea if he's even a good guy or a bad guy.
I'm so confused and depressed at my double life.
In the same way, the Quran just lurches around randomly from story to story, saying over and over, repent and turn to Allah or burn in hell. And there will be random stuff thrown in. Like if you look at the end of Surah 4, it goes just randomly into inheritance laws with no context before it. And it rarely ever just tells a story going through the story. It's always just a blip of it and jumps to something else and jumps to something else. Like someone who's just talking off the top of their head and didn't want to bother sitting down and organizing their thoughts. Neil Breen has a lot of needless repetition in his writing.
It's a magical day. It's a magical day.
It's a magical day. It's a magical time.
In the same way, the Quran just mentions the same ideas over and over and over, just so much that it's like, oh, I'm just so sick of reading this over and over. The antagonists in Neil Breen movies don't make any sense. So like the bad guys, when they're speaking, they have arguments that sound nothing like a real bad guy.
I resigned today as president of the bank. We were all under pressure to operate in a deceiving way.
Those who don't play by our rules lose.
We make a fortune at our insurance companies, overcharging customers and hospitals, and there's nothing the customer can do about it. We have the backing of the politicians.
In the same way, the bad guys in Islam don't make any sense. Like, there's this one guy who gets offended because Muhammad won't let him sit on his rug. And he gets so mad that he says he wants to beat up Umar with an ant. If I had an ant, I would fight you. It's like, what are you talking about?
A center for ants!
Or it'll say that the Jews believe that Ezra's the son of God. Or it'll put Mary into the Trinity. And this is... a lot of times they say, oh, that was just some heretical sect. No, it wasn't. There's even Muslims online who admit that this is a bad formation of the Trinity and it's mentioned in the Quran, but they just say that it's not the Quran's business to try to speak truth to Christian doctrine. But it's like, okay, if it's this perfect book from heaven, why is it getting something so rudimentary so wrong? They both have weird ways of connecting with people. So in Neil Breen movie, there's like a scene where he's with his childhood girlfriend who he's just gotten together with, and he's eating a salad, and you're supposed to get the idea that they're connecting, but it's just so awkward. It's like an alien made the scene. I'll let you see it. In the same way, the way Muhammad interacts with the Ummah in Sirat Rasulullah is so bizarre. There's a part where the Ummah are all sick and they have a fever.
I don't feel so good.
And they can barely stand. And he's not sick. Muhammad isn't sick, but he tells them, you have to stand up or Allah won't hear your prayers. Which, why are you making these sick people stand up? And why is God incapable of hearing their prayers unless they stand up? Didn't God create space and time? Why would you need to be at a different place? Why would you need to be standing up for God to hear your prayer when he created space and time? And he's omnipotent and omnipresent? Makes no sense. Both have plot lines that don't really go anywhere. So in I Am Here Now, there's a scene where there's these two ladies and a guy rides up to him on a bicycle and gets knocked over, and nothing happens because of this scene. It doesn't go anywhere.
Wow.
In the same way, the Sirah and the Quran talk about how Muhammad is predicted in all of these other scriptures, these other holy books. They amp it up, amp it up, amp it up. But then if you ever actually try to look at these old books, he's nowhere in there. It was amped up to nothing. This is a dead plot point. And Muslims today try to get around it by saying that they've been corrupted over time, but that's not even what the Quran says. And in fact, Surat Rasulullah quotes the Gospel of John, calling it the Injil. So the ancient Muslims accepted that the Gospels were the Injil. Well, this creates a huge problem because the Gospels say that Jesus is the Son of God, that he's God incarnate, that he died and rose again. All of that's contradicted by Islam, so Islam contradicts itself. Both Neil Breen movies and the Quran make me feel hated. They let me know that they hate my guts. Neil Breen hates my guts because I'm a lawyer.
Lying lawyers and insurance companies. I will eliminate them all.
Yeah, it's always the government and lawyers that prevent progress.
As an elected government official and as lawyer, we proudly make this donation. As long as you do what I say and vote on the issues that help me.
I'll do everything I can. Just keep the goodies coming my way.
You politicians and lawyers, you appreciate this. Being a greedy liars.
I'm also hated because I'm a Christian. Both condone torture. So if you look at I Am Here Now, there's a scene where I think these people are being tortured. It doesn't really sound like torture.
Don't kill me.
Don't worry, I'm not going to kill you. I'm going to hold you here for all the crimes that you've committed. The cheating, the lying, the embezzling that you've committed against the public. And all the injustices you've...
Injustices? I'm an attorney, and I'm going to see that you are put in jail for the rest of your life.
I don't give a shit. This is my form of justice.
There's torture also in Sirah. Muhammad starts a fire on this guy named Kinana's chest because he's trying to torture him to figure out where his gold is.
I want to know where the gold is. I want the gold. Give me the gold. I want the gold.
It's not even like he's a danger. He's not fighting him in self-defense. He just wants to find his gold. Neil Breen also has the cutting off of hands and crucifixion.
No! No! Don't cut off my hand!
All, if the humans cannot or will not on their own.
The Quran supports this in multiple places as a punishment for non-believers. Neil Breen movies also have mystical, attractive women in them, like this fairy girl. I have no idea who she is or why she's here. She belongs to this bad guy who has the most ridiculous voice.
Ah, so you come highly recommended.
I don't know why she's there, but the same way there's all these houris and virgins in heaven in Islam. I don't know why they're there. Well, I know why they're there.
As for the 72 hur, this is only and specifically for those who are martyred on the battlefield.
There's a lot of pointless content. So if you watch Neil Breen movies, he'll just hold a shot forever. It's like, why am I looking at this tree? In the same way, the Quran will tell you just really dumb, obvious things like you're allowed to talk to your dad. It's like, well, yeah. I mean, I would have assumed that unless you said I wasn't allowed to. Neil Breen thinks he's way more spiritual and in touch with the spiritual realm than he really is.
I've always lived between this world and the other. Humankind has not woven the web of life. We are but one thread within it. Whatever we do to that web, we do to ourselves.
What the fuck? But really, it just feels so of this earth. In the same way, the Quran has this pretentiousness of being this spiritual experience. But if you want actually to be moved by literature, even the Persian poet Rumi is far superior to the Quran. His poems make me cry. They're so beautiful. There's nothing like that in the Quran. The Quran is like a retarded Dr. Seuss book in comparison. Even Surat Rasulullah is much better than the Quran as far as literature is concerned. They both use force to get their way. So if you see Fateful Findings, he'll beat up a guy to save his girl.
Have any keys?
Give me the key to the lock.
I don't have a key. I don't know anything.
Give me the key.
I don't have...
Muhammed, as mentioned earlier, he started a fire on a guy's chest and then cut off his head to try to get his treasure. Neil Breen brags about having more knowledge than anyone else.
I developed a way to control any computer or satellite the government had. I was the first in my class in college in computer science. I joined the military and became a fighter pilot, and won many medals for distinguished service, and became the best agent they ever had.
Have you seen the future?
I am the future.
Muhammad does this too. So does Allah. Allah just goes on and on about how he's all-knowing. And Muhammad brags about how he knows certain things that no one should know that prove that he's a true prophet, like how babies are made and about Dhul Qarnayn. Neil Breen is always with women way more attractive than him. It's almost like he makes these movies and casts them just as an excuse to touch all over hot women that he otherwise would have no chance of touching. Sort of like potentially Muhammad started a religion to be able to touch all over women that otherwise he would have no chance of touching. And how do I know that his wives are more attractive than him? Well, I know that he's overweight from Surat Rasulullah, and I know that he had gaps in his teeth that got knocked out at the Battle of Uhud from the Hadith. I also know that his girls, his wives, are way younger than he is. Aisha, he married her when she was 6 and he was 50. He consummated the marriage when she was 9, so she's obviously younger. For both characters, taking other people's women isn't a problem. You can see this with the cutie in I Am Here Now, and she has a boyfriend, but then Neil Breen comes in and snatches her up. In the same way, Muhammad has an adopted son named Zayd, and he sees Zayd's wife one time in a nightgown, and he gets the hots for her, and then Allah's like, just have Zayd divorce her and marry that girl. I'm going to allow it. So he does it, and then all of the Ummah are like, wait, you're married to your son's daughter? That's screwed up. That's weird. And so then he gets another revelation from Allah that makes adoption no longer allowed in Islam, so no one can say that this guy is his son's wife. Isn't that convenient? Okay, that's done.
Once you're high, you won't remember a thing.
This is more than we could prepare for.
What happened to me? To us? To me?